Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Balancing Act, the podcast devoted to helping families navigate memory loss and dementia. I'm Kelly Burtonshaw. Let's get started. Welcome back, everyone. Today, I'd like to talk about something that I seem to be getting more and more questions about from our listeners. Why it becomes more difficult to find activities that benefit their loved one affected by dementia. More specifically, they ask about activities that exercise their loved one's cognitive abilities and keep them engaged. Because at some point, many families find themselves sitting across from their loved one with a crossword, a word search, or a deck of cards, doing what they've been told is good for them. And yet at the same time, they feel a growing disconnect during the activity itself. One listener described it this way: "My father loved playing checkers, but now when we play, it's like we're on two separate islands." No, neither of you are the problem. The activity is. We are truly trying to help our loved one keep their skills sharp. And it's true that as we age, it's important to keep our brains active. But when a loved one is affected by dementia, over time, it becomes clear that even when they can still complete parts of the activity, that doesn't necessarily translate into true benefit. So today, let's go beyond the puzzles and talk about what actually makes an activity beneficial and why it has less to do with what is being completed and more to do with how your loved one is included in the experience. Because what your loved one needs most in these moments is not to feel challenged. They need to feel like they still have a place. When we think about what is good for the brain, we tend to picture activities that challenge our word finding, thinking, memory, or involve problem solving. For many years, that has been the standard recommendation. And because of this, there are now countless apps and online games that promise brain training. But when a loved one is affected by dementia, this affects their language, their sequencing and processing speed. And these types of activities become meaningless interruptions rather than activities that support what matters most to your loved one in their everyday life. Feeling valued. So how will you know if the activity is no longer useful? You'll notice that it requires more effort than it used to. It takes them longer to complete. They require more time responding to questions, and they might keep looking to you for help, maybe even wanting you to finish it for them. And watch their facial expressions and their body language. They look uncomfortable, frustrated, or they just finally give up and walk away. And it's not a lack of willingness. It's your loved one recognizing that something no longer feels as natural as it once did. So when we continue to offer the same kind of activities, expecting the same type of participation, it unintentionally places your loved one in a position where they feel like they're being measured rather than included. And over time, that can lead to withdrawal, not from you, but from activities. So instead of focusing on whether an activity is cognitively challenging, begin to look at whether it allows your loved one to participate in a way that feels familiar, comfortable, and successful. And first and foremost, this requires adjusting our expectations. They need to match where your loved one is right now. Now, this might mean letting go of the idea that your loved one has to do the activity themselves and do it correctly. It might mean recognizing that your loved one does not need to figure out the right word to do the puzzles or remember information in order to be part of something meaningful. Here's what I mean. I once worked with a daughter who used to sit across from her mom each afternoon with the crossword puzzle. Now, her mom had always been a crossword puzzle fiend, but her daughter began to notice that even though her mom would try to participate, there were more and more moments where she would just stop, look up, and say, "I don't know." So when we changed how they approached that time together, they began sitting side by side, and instead of asking her mom for the answers, the daughter would read the clue out loud and then casually say what came to her mind. Doing this left space for her mom to respond if she could or if she wanted to. So here's the point of all of this. What changed is that her loved one was no longer just being asked to produce something on demand. She was now sharing a favorite activity with her daughter. Now, meeting your loved one where their abilities are also means recognizing what they still can do, even if it looks different than it used to. Play to their strengths. For example, if your loved one always loved cooking, the goal doesn't have to be following a full recipe from start to finish, because that requires language processing, sequencing, timing, and memory in ways that may now feel completely overwhelming for them. So, involve your loved one in portions of the process, parts that feel more predictable, like standing together at the sink while rinsing the vegetables underwater. And then you can hand ingredients to your loved one while they're stirring. You're continuing the preparation beside them. And believe it or not, this same idea can apply to your loved one's everyday tasks. Routines that may not seem like activities become opportunities for connection and success. Things like putting away the groceries or organizing a closet can create a rhythm of interaction that feels natural rather than like a test. It doesn't matter how much is accomplished, but that your loved one is included in a way that allows them to contribute, because contribution reinforces value, and value supports connection. I want us to take a small pause together. These conversations can bring up a lot, I know. And if what you're hearing feels helpful, I hope you'll take a moment to hit that follow button. It's a simple act that helps me keep bringing you new stories, insights, and encouragement to help lighten your load, even if it's just a little. And if the platform you listen to this podcast on allows reviews and ratings, please share your experience. This moves us up on the podcast lists, and that's how we can reach more families and provide the support they need. There's another way to show your support, through a donation. Just look for the Buy Me a Coffee link in today's show notes. This helps us keep the mic on and the episodes coming. Thank you so much for listening and for being part of this community. Now, as we begin to think about these activities and how we're going to interact, communication becomes just as important as the activity itself. Because the way we speak can either support engagement or unintentionally create pressure. When language becomes more difficult, your loved one is not going to be able to generate responses as easily. But this doesn't mean they're completely unable to communicate. It means that we need to adjust how we invite them into the communication. For example, please get rid of open-ended questions. You know, those who, what, where, when, why, and how questions. There's just too many possible answers they have to sift through. Then they have to find the right word and make a decision about it. It's just too much. Where did you put that? When do you want to leave? What do you want to eat for dinner? Give them the words and then give them a choice. For example, do you keep these in the pantry or in the cabinet? Do you want to eat now or after we finish unloading the dishwasher? You're giving them the words, you gave them a choice. They still feel like they have some control and a way to communicate. This type of language creates space for participation without placing your loved one in a position where they feel tested. And here's some other basic guidelines. Try to stick to one sentence at a time. Increase your wait time for their response. And if you need to repeat anything, repeat it exactly the same way. Over time, this approach tends to result in a more natural back and forth interaction because your loved one is no longer trying to come up with the right response. I worked with a family who noticed that their dad had stopped engaging during their conversations at the dinner table. He began sitting quietly while others talked around him. So we started by working on communication that included him in a different way. We focused on the family making simple observations during the meal, such as commenting on the food or the weather, and avoiding directing questions at their father. Gradually, he began to re-enter the conversation. He might repeat a word, add a short phrase, or even just nod in agreement, but those were moments of engagement, and they became more consistent because the pressure to respond correctly had been removed. And that is the key. We don't need perfect language. As we bring all of this together, what we begin to see is that meaningful activity is less about what your loved one is doing and more about how they are experiencing time with you. When activities are structured in a way that allows your loved one to contribute and feel included, they're more likely to stay engaged. And when they stay engaged, you may notice that your loved one remains present for longer periods of time, that there are more moments of eye contact or shared attention, and that the overall tone of your time together feels calmer and more connected. And for you, as a caregiver, it often reduces that feeling that you need to constantly correct your loved one or guide them because the activity itself supports connection. And if this episode gave you new ways of thinking about how to spend time with your loved one, consider sharing it, because these are the kinds of conversations that help families feel less alone. And if you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me on our Facebook page. That's what I'm here for. The link is in the show notes. And no matter what you try or how it works, give yourself this grace. No one is perfect at this. No one. You're doing the best you can. You're doing it from a place of love. And that is enough. I'm Kelly Burtonshaw, and it was my pleasure spending time with you today. Please, keep in touch.
Hi, I'm Peggy Wright, editor and producer of this podcast. We know that juggling your loved one's care while trying to manage your own life can truly become a balancing act. We want to help you as you navigate this journey by offering our support. You can reach out to us anytime by going to our Facebook page to ask questions, leave comments for Kelly, or talk with her one-on-one by setting up a chat. The link is in the show notes. And you can find us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what you hear, please take a moment to rate and review so we can continue to provide relevant content. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for listening today.